Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Stella Herself podcast. New episodes every Thursday, available on all platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in again. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And don't forget to take a screenshot of this or an aesthetic pic or video of your surroundings. Tag me. I would love to see who listens, where you're listening, etc. Shout out to Daytona on Instagram for posting the podcast last week. I'm recording this in advance because I'm going back home, so I guess technically this is now 2 weeks ago, but she was just watching on her TV, and her dog's also in the frame. So shout out to you, girl. Thank you so much to everyone that listens and has been supporting. Y'all know this is like one of my favorite things that I do. I just love coming on here and chatting about subjects that interest me and that I feel like interest us all as a community. So we have some good topics this week, so let's just go ahead and get started. The main thing I really wanted to talk about today is PMS. And if you're not someone who experiences that, maybe you don't have a uterus, or maybe you don't have a period, or whatever the case may be. Obviously you don't have to listen to this if you don't want, but I feel like the way in which I'm going to talk about it, at least part of it, is kind of just like applies to life in general, not just specifically PMS. So just so y'all know. But bitch, this is definitely my PMS week, and it's so funny. I can always tell the like specific day when it starts because I just feel a little like on edge. And for me, it's always like a week or so before my period. When I'm on my period, I'm not really like overly emotional, or like sometimes the first day, I'll have cramps and it'll be unpleasant, but not in that PMS, like emotional, just like on edge, like everything's pissing me off feeling. Once I start my period, I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Like, yeah, maybe I'm in pain or like kind of still tired, but like, it's not that like everybody's fucking pissing me off feeling. So that's really how I'm feeling today. And I also personally get really tired, which is natural because it's our hormone levels changing throughout the month. But it's just really frustrating because our society is not built, on that system. Our society and capitalism and just how our work days are set up are very structured around men's hormone cycles, which are a 24-hour cycle instead of a 30-day cycle. So, usually men have the most testosterone. They'll start the day off with a lot of testosterone, so that's why, we get up. And I would definitely consider myself like a morning person, but even throughout the day, I'll get like tired at certain times. And again, some of that is like REM cycles and just like being human, but a lot of it low-key is like just the difference in our hormone cycles. And like for women, it's like a whole week or so out of the month we're just like tired off, and then we actually have to start our period and like be tired on our period. And it's just like hard because in an ideal world, I would love to just not do anything. Just like really chill, sleep all day, even days where I do have to take a nap. I find myself feeling guilty, like, damn, like I have so much to do. I need to be getting stuff done. And it's just like really annoying. So I think just like when we know the tips and tricks and how to best support ourselves, even in the unideal circumstances of still having to go to work or go to school, or, just take care of things around the house, take care of kids if you have them, like it can definitely make it easier, even if it's not like, okay, it's not like I can actually just lay down for this whole week. So I'll get into the tips and tricks, but I guess the first thing that was kind of on my mind is I think something I kind of want to work on is, I guess, just reminding myself of the difference between rest and play. Because there's, like work and play. And I feel like often I think of like rest as like I include playtime or like going out or being social in rest because I'm like, well, I'm not working. So, it's like a weekend. Like, oh, I want to like go out. I want to see my friends. I want to like go out to eat or like make plans, or even just if it's not anything crazy, like see people, be social. But that's not the same as rest. Rest and play are different. And I think I'm just really starting to realize that because I feel like especially lately, I've just been a little more social. It's getting nicer outside. I like to be out and about, and especially like, I think after the pandemic, we're still kind of in it, but just after however long it was after not being able to really go out and do stuff, I feel like a lot of us just feel like, yes, I want to be out. I want to be around people. I just want to be out in society. But yeah, it's like, that's not rest. Like sometimes that can tire you as much as working. And some of us are more introverted than others. After talking with my therapist, it's a spectrum, I'm definitely, I feel like leaning more towards introvert, but I definitely like to have my social time, and I do like to be around people to a certain extent. I've told you guys this before, but personally, if I spend too many days in the house by myself, like not around anybody, I start to feel a little crazy. But even, I guess where I was going with that is, even if you are very extroverted, it's still important to have rest time and to get enough sleep and just to practice doing nothing, or even just, just laying out, or just like maybe if you're super extroverted, you wouldn't need as much time necessarily to yourself. But I feel like everyone to a degree, obviously we all need enough hours of sleep, and like we all need to eat right, and we all need to do what we got to do. But yeah, sometimes like doing all this stuff, like let's just say like during the week you're like working all the time, and like even just like going to the gym, meal prepping, like just doing all the stuff you got to do to like keep up. And then it's like, okay, it's the weekend. Yay, now I have time to see my friends. I have time to do this. I have time to go out. I have time to like clean the house, and it's still just like doing stuff. So I think something I kind of want to prioritize is just pure rest. Because even when I'm just at home, it's like there's just that, I have this nagging sensation like, oh, I should be cleaning. I should be doing laundry. Oh, I have this extra time. I could be like planning content for next week. I could be reorganizing my closet. And it's just like, it honestly never ends. There's always something that we could be doing. And therefore, it's all the more important to prioritize and carve out space to rest. And something that's kind of been on my mind the past couple weeks is, I don't know where I heard this. This may be like a famous quote, and I just like, I'm kind of just remembering it, or maybe I read it, I don't know. But y'all know, I prefer to start my days off with like meditation and yoga, or at least just like a meditation. And sometimes it just feels like I don't even have the time. Like even if it's like a 10-minute meditation, sometimes I just want to get up and start the day right away. Like I want to go to the gym, and then I want to shower, and then I want to work, and like even just carving out that extra little 10 minutes, it just feels like such a fucking hassle sometimes. So I've just been like recalling this quote I heard, which was like, it was something like, if you don't have time to meditate, you definitely need to meditate. If you feel like, oh, I have so much going on in my life, I'm rushing around all the time, I don't have time for that, you need it most. So I've definitely just been trying to like, prioritize that. But yeah, it's just like, it's never gonna end. Like none of the little bullshit, like, oh, I could be doing this, that, the to-do list is never gonna be over. You can't wait until the to-do list is completed to like, okay, now I have time to rest. And I guess that's kind of like retirement. But it's like, it's unrealistic to just like, oh yeah, I'll rest when I'm dead. So this is your reminder to take time for rest and to do the things that are really going to recharge you. Also, like with the gym, I saw this TikTok that kind of just like supported this whole idea. It was a fitness TikTok, or fitness, influencer, but he was talking about how he was talking about how he only works out 5 times a week, not 7, and how he used to work out 7 days a week, but it was just leading to more injuries, exhaustion. It was harder to like, get stronger because you don't grow in the gym, like you're tearing your muscles in the gym, but you grow when you're sleeping, when you're eating, like you grow at home when you're resting. And how, so many people, especially when they first start working out, just get into this mentality like I always need to be in the gym. And I definitely had that, when I first started lifting and stuff. And I just remember like just being so like exhausted. And so it's just like that reminder as well, it's like an analogy. Because I know when I take a day off or a couple days off and then I go back to the gym and I'm like eating and I'm like sleeping and resting and then I go back to the gym, like I feel amazing. So the same is true for just like regular life, especially when experiencing burnout and like just being overwhelmed and stressed. Bitch, we need to rest. And rest is not always play. Rest sometimes is like laying in bed all day or like just like doing nothing. Being in nature, I feel like, is very recharging, and that doesn't have to look like going on a 10-mile hike, but like sometimes you can just lay outside or like take a quaint walk. And it's just so important to remind yourself, and this is like me, but it's just so important to remind ourselves of this because, again, it's never really going to be a point where it's like, okay, everything on my to-do list is completed for a whole week. It's not likely that that's ever going to happen. And we just live in a society that doesn't really encourage us or allow us to be fully rested. It's like we always want to be moving on to the next thing, which can be a good thing, like having drive is a great trait, and wanting to like be better, wanting to like start working out more or growing your business or go back to school for something, whatever it may be, like it's so great to have that drive and like motivation and like it feels so good to get stuff done and to like do more, like just that feeling of after a productive day you finished everything on your to-do list for that day and you're like, yay, great feeling, love it. But that is different than like, okay, I'm actually rested, my soul and like my body is like rested. So remind yourself of it. And if you feel guilty, just know it's okay to feel that way, but it's still important to follow through with a rest. So I guess let me know, like, what are your favorite ways to rest? Not play. Yeah. Like I feel like this whole past month, the week, because usually like on the weekends it's like I'm chilling, but the past few weeks I've been like making plans. She's been social, y'all, and I think I'm just like I haven't really just like rested truly in a while. So PMS reminds us, humbles us a little bit. It reminds us to slow down and to allow ourselves to rest. Like today after the gym, I was like, I need to nap so bad. And I only slept for like 20 minutes, but when it's like a hard sleep, like you kind of wake up confused. Like I drooled a lot. I was like, how did I drool that much in 20 minutes? But it was like one of those. So I was like, damn, I guess I really needed it. It's like not every week can be an ovulation week. I fucking wish it could, but yeah. So as far as tips and tricks, also, well, I guess we're about to talk about it. Tips and tricks for your PMS week. So this is the week before your period. Limiting caffeine, limiting sugar, for sure. Especially caffeine. I remember back when I was like drinking a lot of coffee, I would just always notice like before my period, and this is like I knew that I shouldn't be having caffeine, but I was still doing it. And when I was like, on my fertile week, whatever, it would make me feel great. The caffeine would just like really give me that boost. And you probably heard me say it in past podcast episodes, but I'd be like, wow, the caffeine is doing exactly what I want it to do today. But when I was like on my PMS week, having caffeine like that just made me feel like that jittery feeling, the caffeine anxiety. Like, when you have so much caffeine, it makes you feel more tired. Like I would constantly just be experiencing that. And sugar as well, as I'm having this like sugary ass matcha. Okay, the Starbucks matcha isn't really that sweet, but it's still sweet. But yeah, like if possible, this is better than like coffee. So if you need caffeine, like try more natural forms of it, like a green tea, or if you love coffee, get decaf, and that will just help a lot. Yeah, I found that the caffeine made me a lot more like irritable. Also just allowing yourself to rest, like if you can nap, if you have time in your day for that, do it. Obviously that's not always possible. Bitches gotta work and stuff, but if you can, get a little nap in there. And I guess just having that like more holistic approach to your life. So like if I know that y'all know me, I love an antic once in a while. I've been loving doing those little mini vlogs on my Instagram. It's so funny. They kind of remind me of like the 2015 fisheye vlogs, just in terms of like, kind of just like the quick little vlogs. But if I'm like on my PMS week, about to start my period, I know that's not the best time for an antic, because alcohol is going to affect you differently. Even just being around people, regardless of drinking, like I'm more likely going to be pissed off. I'm more likely not going to just feel at my best. And so like, why would I want to like go out? That's not to say, I just shut myself in the house. But I just know like, okay, like let's not schedule like the most lit antic during that week. Like, and then just like with recovery from not getting enough sleep or from drinking or even just overexerting yourself socially, it's just going to take that much more time for your body to recover, because it already is like tired and like focusing on getting your hormones together to start your period. So just keeping everything in mind, being very mindful of like your body and working with it rather than against it. Also, it just gives us that reminder that everything's temporary. So like today, I took my little nap. That kind of annoyed me because I really just wanted to like get everything together. But I was like, I know I'm going to feel better after this. I did. Went to go get my matcha. It's like as soon as I sit down to record, someone starts vacuuming in the hallway. It's super windy today, so the wind was making all this noise. Some sirens started, and I had to laugh, bro, because I was just like, of course. Like, I was so annoyed and frustrated that I literally just had to like take a step back and laugh, because I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, oh my god. But it's just like, you can't even take this serious. Like, sometimes I'm just so annoyed. Just like, let me take some breaths. Like, and just having that mindfulness of like, okay, like I know I'm feeling this way because of a reason. And it's temporary. I'm not going to feel this way forever. And that's not to say like you have to dismiss your emotions or your feelings of irritation just because they're temporary. But like sometimes it just helps to take a step back, take a breath, and be like, this is so stupid. Like, LOL. I also asked you guys on Discord. I'm getting tea in my DMs. What you guys do to prevent PMS. People are saying healthy fats, iron. If I can, planning your schedule to work less around your period. Iron tablets, a hot water bottle if you have cramps. And people are saying, this girl said, I get such bad mood swings and I can't really do much about that. Dude, yeah, limiting caffeine helps a lot with the moods. Hot compress for cramps, try to rest and sleep it off. Yeah, the mood swings really are so annoying because I like feeling good, bro. Like I like feeling at my best. We all do. So just having that time every month where you feel off, like it can feel so disheartening. But you just have to remind yourself, it's my hormones, it's my body doing what it needs to do. Another thing that really helps is the herb Dong Quai. You can get tablets of it on Amazon. I will link the ones that I have down below. But like usually a week or so, maybe 10 days before it says on my app that I'm supposed to start my period, I will start taking those. It says to take one tablet 3 or 4 times a day. So I will do that. I've been doing that for a while now. And even when I was younger, my mom would like make tea out of the root and give it to like me and my sister. And I do feel like that helps a lot. Obviously, like, do your own research. This is not medical advice, but that's just something I do, and it's an herb, so it's pretty safe. But again, just do your research, especially if you are on any other medications or anything. But that's something that I've done that helps. Raspberry leaf tea can help with cramps. I really like I said, like the first day I will get cramps, but I've honestly been really lucky to never have super severe cramps or anything. Also, I've always used, well, when I first ever got my period, I was like scared of tampons, as I know a lot of people are. But I would use cotton reusable pads, and I just remember being so embarrassed about them because I was like, ew, like, especially at school, like it feels like a diaper. But now they're like kind of trendy and like low waist, so I'm like, wow, my mom was really onto something. But yeah, like I've always used that or organic cotton tampons, and now for the past few years I've used a cup. So I wonder if any of those things have anything to do with the fact that I just have pretty easy periods. I think diet has a lot to do with it, and I feel like low-key genetics. I don't know. I say that because I know that I've heard a lot of women switch over to just using like organic, especially the organic reusable pads or a menstrual cup, and they just say like their flows are a lot lighter and they get less cramps because there are definitely chemicals in like non-organic tampons and whatnot. Obviously, you have to do what you have to do. I would really recommend getting a menstrual cup, just because you save, like, for the sheer fact of you save so much money. I think it's like $40, but when you think about it, that's like 4 months worth of tampons. But you can use it for like, I think it says like use it for a year, but which if you just like boil it, I've definitely had mine longer than that, and it's fine. You just sanitize it, it's fine. But I definitely really like that. And maybe that could help, you know, if you have really heavy periods or whatever. And also just make sure that, this is like turning into just practical advice. Make sure that you are getting your yearly pap smears just to check everything out in that area and make sure you're good, especially if you do have trouble with maybe regular periods or super heavy periods or anything like that. You know, you just want to make sure that everything is good to go. And I know a lot of people are scared to like get checked for that or even to get tested for like STIs. But the thing is, like, if you do have something or you like something is going on, the earlier you find out, the better, you know, because you don't want something to be going on for so long, and then it's like even more of a deal to deal with. And also, I mean, especially with STIs, but I feel like just everything related to like anatomy, there's just, or like, not anatomy, that specific anatomy, there's just a lot of like shame and stigma attached to it. Like, I mean, with STIs, it's like, oh, you're dirty if you like have that, but it's like, that's only because it's related to sex. Like, you wouldn't be shamed like that for getting a cold. Maybe low-key some people would shame you if you had COVID, but like, who hasn't had COVID? Not one. But then as far as like just like female anatomy and stuff, it's like, I feel like there can even be shame surrounding that, just because it's like, oh, you're like, society kind of teaches us like, oh, your purpose in life as a female is to have kids, and if like you have any like something wrong in that area, or like you can't have my kids, then like you're worthless. And like same thing with like, I don't know, I was talking with my hair stylist, the girl who does my hair, and she's married, but then she's like, I was talking about being single, she's talking about like how she's married, but people keep bothering her about like, oh, when are you guys gonna have kids? And we're just like, yeah, like it never really ends, like especially as a woman, like there's just always like something people are gonna press you about. So I kind of not really off subject, but kind of. But anyway, make those appointments if you haven't. Get tested, get your pap smears, all of that. It's not scary. It's actually like way easier than I thought. I was like so scared to do it, but I was like, oh. No, I think I talked about it, but like maybe in a vlog, I don't remember. But Zoella has this video, because I was just looking up like what to expect from a pap smear. Zoella has a full video where she films the whole pap smear, the whole duration of it. She puts a timer in the corner of how long the actual exam takes, and then like asks the gynecologist questions after, and it was just like so helpful and informative, and like just the fact that it was Zoella made it that much better. Oh my god, queen. Anyway, so yeah, if you have any tips and tricks, things that help you overcome or get through PMS or on your period, let us know. Or if you have any anxiety tips for maybe people who are scared to, go to the doctor or to get tested, let us know as well. I have always said this, in my vlogs and stuff, but if you are ever going to get tested and you're scared, you can message me on IG and I will be there for you. So it's just so important. But I know a lot of you do it, but I feel also thank God, at least of the side of the internet I'm on, and that I'm sure a lot of you are on if you're listening to this podcast, but a lot of getting tested and just being kind of sex positive is so, I feel it's just a lot more normalized than it was in the past, and just people not being fucking annoying. And yeah, so true. Well said. People not being fucking annoying. So that's my little PMS talk. I'm actually low-key going back home at the perfect time because I just honestly really feel I would love to lay down all day and not feel guilty about it. What else can we talk about, bro? Let me see. So I watched this TED Talk about anxiety. That's how my morning was going. I'm looking up TED Talk anxiety. And I found this one. I'm so congested from the AC. I found this one. I will link it down below. Titled "How to Stop Feeling Anxious About Anxiety," and this was a really good one. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it a little bit. Some of the points that I really found helpful. I feel I talk about anxiety in every episode, but that's just my life. So hope you can relate. If you can't relate, good for you. So one of the things he said was anxiety isn't an illness, it's an emotion. Because, a lot of us, he was just kind of talking about how, when people experience anxiety, a lot, chronic anxiety, we go to a doctor and it's kind of just looked at as something's wrong with you or an illness. And I mean, it is mental health, but he was talking about how it's an emotion and how all emotions serve a purpose. And anxiety is a normal human emotion that serves a purpose in our life. And he's doing a TED Talk. So he's without anxiety, anxiety is the thing that helps you make sure that the stove is off, helps you remember important dates. If anxiety wasn't a human emotion, none of you would have, showed up to this event today because you wouldn't have cared enough to remember and gotten dressed and when to go, But, it can definitely become destructive. Anxiety is the emotion that tells us something is too important to lose focus of. I really related to this because if I'm anxious about something, it's I can't get it off my mind. Even if I have something coming up, it's for days before I will just be thinking about it. I'll get that knot in my stomach or that pressure in my chest, and it's just ew. So we had this really good analogy about a captain and crew, of a ship, and how the captain is our logical brain, that makes decisions and can kind of reason through something. And the crew is our subconscious or our automatic, the automatic part of us that doesn't really think, it just does. And I kind of thought of it as our body, and how part, I guess, of overcoming anxiety is listening to the crew. Because if our crew is telling us, and this could just be the experience of anxiety, so if our body's telling us, if the crew's telling us something is off, something's unsafe, we're going to get those physical symptoms sweating, heart racing, tightness in the chest, a knot in our stomach, whatever. But so many people get anxious about being anxious instead of listening to the crew and asking okay, what's wrong? So I was going with the ship analogy. He gave another analogy of a ship, of how our body, he said how our bodies want to keep us happy. I have heard, happiness isn't necessary for survival. I feel kind of our bodies want to keep us safe. But he was saying I don't know, he just kept saying happy, but how happiness and safety kind of go hand in hand. But anyway, he said a ship in harbor is safe, but that's not where it belongs. So, if something is giving us anxiety, the crew is going to be telling us like, oh no, we have to get back to safety. And this can just become very controlling of our life. Like if we're always listening to our anxiety and just like those feelings of like, oh, this is unsafe, we're just going to always be going back to safety, but that's not necessarily where happiness is. And how, we can often experience just very uncomfortable things and thoughts, like self-destructive thoughts, like maybe, maybe you're anxious about applying for a new job, I think is one of the things I don't know. But it was like, oh, you're not good enough for this, you're not qualified for this. And it's like those thoughts feel negative, but it's really like our body's trying to keep us safe from this potential threat of danger or from being let down or rejected or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to take any risks. I'm just going to be safe over here because even though there's no growth over here, there's maybe even not any happiness over here, at least I'm not faced with those threats of rejection and therefore anxiety. So then at the end, he gave 3 kind of steps of how I think he was talking about his struggle with social anxiety, but how number 1, it's like to listen to your body and to listen to the crew. And, earlier he was talking about how so often we just want to like not feel anxiety. And so our number 1 goal becomes not to feel it and like not to experience that because it's so uncomfortable and just unpleasant and not a good time. But when we are just ignoring these feelings, he said, like what happens when you ignore someone, they're just going to want to talk louder. So it's just going to keep coming up and keep coming up if you don't like confront it or listen to it. And then once you're able to listen to it, he said your logical brain is able to therefore have more of a say in how you feel because you can be like, okay, like, is this feeling appropriate for the situation? Am I being overly anxious? Like, how do I proceed? And then to just be kind to yourself and to those feelings. Because if, you're judging yourself or being like, oh, I know, I feel this again, like, ew, that's just going to lead to more of the bad feeling. Whereas if you're like, okay, this is like normal, let me listen, like you kind of have to treat your anxiety like a fucking child. Like, let me listen to you, let me hear what you have to say. It may not always be accurate, but I'm not going to just like write you off or call you a dumb bitch, like you're a kid. Like, you're an emotion. And also with that, with, beating yourself up about feeling something or by making a mistake, you're just going to be demoralized, and that's going to lead to low self-esteem and therefore more anxiety. So it's just really a classic. We need to feel our feelings. Perfect. But yeah, just realizing like when it's so often, and I remember for myself when I first started actively like experiencing anxiety and I didn't know what it was, like so often a panic attack or like anxiety feels random, but it's so often like triggered by something or triggered by a thought. So when we're able to like just know what it is, we can identify it and be like, okay, like it's not like something's wrong with me or wrong with my body or like, oh my God, it's like, no, I thought this, so now my body is reacting like this because it's reacted to that before. We've experienced anxiety before when we've had that happen to us or thought that. So it's just doing what it knows what to do, what it knows how to do to protect me. But now my logical brain knows that, so I can be like, no, I don't really think it's appropriate, babe. And that kind of goes into, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and I guess just like almost making new, I don't know if this is the actual definition of it, but it's kind of like retraining your brain, to not experience anxiety or just to realize that like when I feel this, it's not an actual threat. And it's just like when you experience something and then you come out of it on the other side okay, like your brain's like, oh, okay. And it's just like, I think the biggest trip for me has been like how much, like I guess just the difference between like your mind knowing something and then like your body having to know it. And that's like trauma, babe. Like, you can think something, you can know something, but like to have your body, like your body's, it's like crazy. It's like your body's really like nature and like just like an organism. And then it's like we have our like minds, and it's just like, whoa. It's just like our, also just going back to our society not letting us really live a holistic life. Like, it's just, it's not like thought of as that. We're not taught that it's thought of, that it is that. That like the mind body connection, bro. Like, that's just crazy. What else was I gonna say about that? Yeah, anyway, I finally started this book, My Grandmother's Hands, which is a book about racialized trauma, but also just trauma in general. So I only just started it. So the first chapter is called Your Body and Blood. Where was this? Yeah. Trauma always happens in, the body is where we live. It's where we fear, hope, and react. It's where we constrict and relax. And what the body cares most about is safety and survival. So that's why when this guy in the TED Talk was like, oh, it's about happiness, like, I think it's about safety. Like, our bodies want to keep us safe. When something happens to the body that is too much, too fast, or too soon, it overwhelms the body and can create trauma. Trauma always happens in the body. It is a spontaneous protective mechanism used by the body to stop or thwart further or future potential damage. Trauma is not a flaw or a weakness. It is a highly effective tool of safety and survival. Trauma is also not an event. Trauma is the body's protective response to an event or series of events that it perceives as potentially dangerous. This perception may be accurate, inaccurate, or entirely imaginary. In the aftermath of highly stressful or traumatic situations, our soul nerve and lizard brain, I was talking about like our lizard brain, like how we're literally like so similar to lizards. Our soul nerve versus like our vagus nerve versus our like animal brain, like the fight, flight, flee, freeze, etc. In the aftermath of highly stressful or traumatic situations, our soul nerve and lizard brain may embed a reflexive trauma response in our bodies. This happens at lightning speed. An embedded trauma response can manifest as fight, flee, or freeze, or as some combination of constriction, pain, fear, dread, anxiety, unpleasant, and sometimes pleasant thoughts, reactive behaviors, and other sensations and experiences. This trauma then gets stuck in the body and stays stuck there until it is addressed. We can have a trauma response to anything we perceive as a threat, not only to our physical safety, but to what we do, say, think, care about, believe in, or yearn for. From the body's viewpoint, safety and danger are neither situational nor based in cognitive feelings. Rather, they are physical, visceral sensations. The body either has a sense of safety or it doesn't. If it doesn't, it will do almost anything to establish or recover that sense of safety. So it's just like education is really like power. A traumatic response temporarily overrides the rational brain. It's like when a computer senses a virus and responds by shutting down some or all of its functions. This is why when mending trauma, we need to proceed slowly so that when we can uncover the body's functions without triggering yet another trauma response. As mentioned earlier, trauma is a wordless story our body tells itself about what is safe and what is a threat. So that's kind of like the mind, like consciously you can know something is safe and you're fine, but like if your body doesn't feel that, like our rational brain can't stop it from occurring and it can't talk our body out of it. Trauma can cause us to react to present events in ways that seem wildly inappropriate, overcharged, or otherwise out of proportion. When someone freaks out suddenly or reacts to a small problem as if it were a catastrophe, it's often a trauma response. Something in the here and now is rekindling old pain or discomfort, and the body tries to address it with the reflexive energy that's still stuck inside the nervous system. This is what leads to over-the-top reactions. Overreactions are the body's attempt to complete a protective action that got thwarted or overridden during a traumatic situation. The body wanted to fight or flee, but it wasn't able to do either, so it got stuck in freeze mode. In many cases, it then develops strategies around this stuckness, including extreme reactions, compulsions, strange likes and dislikes, seemingly irrational fears, and unusual avoidance strategies. Over time, these can become embedded in the body as standard ways of surviving and protecting itself. When these strategies are repeated and passed on over generations, they can become the standard response in families, communities, and cultures. So that's kind of like, honestly, the intro to this book. So I'm really interested to read the rest of this book because I feel like it's very just relevant, because it talks so much about trauma, but then also like with racism and from points of view of both people of color and white people, and prejudices and just trauma responses, like, bitch, everything. So if you've read it, let me know, but I just feel like it's just very applicable to these times. So anyway, I will link the book down below as well as this TED Talk, but let me know if you have any fun facts or have learned anything, or if you have any recommendations of other TED Talks or books regarding anxiety or trauma or anything like that. My favorite topic. The more I learn, though, the more I do feel empowered and like, something can be done about this. Which is a lot better feeling than just like feeling overwhelmed and like you don't really know like what this is or what to do about it or like if it's normal or anything. So hopefully in my sharing my story and like what I've learned and stuff, I mean, I didn't really talk about my story in this specific episode, but y'all know I have talked about anxiety and whatnot. Hopefully that helps you feel less alone if you're dealing with that or any sort of like mental health just like issue. So we're gonna take a quick 180 to be delusional. But y'all know I've talked about here and there how I just need to get back in my manifestation bag and back on my law of attraction, like delusional vibe, because it was such a trendy topic back in the day, especially in the 2016 vegan days. Like I loved law of attraction. Like I made so many videos about it and just like really truly believed like that was it. And then I think during that time, what even was going on at that time, but it just kind of became like, not that, it became less trendy, but I just feel like as I kind of learned more about like life, society, capitalism, patriarchy, racism, and just like how, like privilege, I guess, white privilege, class privilege, I just was kind of like, okay, this isn't really like something I want to promote anymore or talk about, because as someone with privilege, it just feels a little ignorant to be saying like, oh, well, you create your own reality. Like it's just like easy for you to say. And still to this day, like I don't really follow that many people whose brand is like, I don't know, the law of attraction, or like, oh, you can create your own reality, buy my course, because I do get kind of a scam vibe from a lot of it. And again, just that whole thing of privilege, and it's just like, I don't know. But with all of that being said, personally, not that I'm gonna like start, oh, this is how you manifest, but personally, I'm just kind of like, damn, life was a little more fun when I was just like believed that I could manifest. And not to say like I don't believe in it at all. I think there's I guess this is kind of like what I believed back then too. Because y'all know me, I'm like a logical, like rational person. So even back then when I really was like heavy on it, it was always like, I think pretty reasonable, just in the sense of, if you are really focused on something, like that's going to be where your energy is going. I always remember using the analogy of like learning a new word. And once you learn the word, you start seeing it everywhere. And it's not like the word wasn't there before, but now that your attention's on it, you start seeing it. Or if there's a certain car you really like or whatever, then you start like seeing that car everywhere. So it's kind of like the same with this. Like I really honestly love the book Creating Money. Great book just about like your perception and like kind of law of attraction vibes. I should honestly like start reading that before bed every night. But just kind of that vibe of like, if there's something that I want, let me go, instead of like being in the feeling of like lack or like I don't have this, instead like go to the feeling of like how would I feel if I had the job I wanted, or looked the way I wanted, or had the relationship I wanted, or the house I wanted, whatever. Like, what does that feel like? And when you're coming from that place of like just that more positive like vibe, an attitude about it, it's like then you are more likely to see opportunities in your life where you could achieve that, or maybe where it already is that you weren't able to see before because you were just so focused on not having it, or like, oh, my life sucks, or like, oh, like I'm never gonna have a boyfriend, all men are disgusting. So it's not, I don't know, it's just like that fine line. I feel like now I can kind of see like, yeah, there's definitely power in that, and especially creatively, I think it's honestly like low-key a great way to like, you know, generate some ideas and just to get excited about something. But it is that fine line between like, don't be delusional and like dismissive about your own feelings, because it's not like it's bad to feel shit or to experience like negative emotions, but then also like, you know, how much of this actually is in my control, and can I shift my mindset? And like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of it for me of wanting to get back to it has just been like a kind of exhaustion by like how low-key like difficult it is to just like and it's not like, oh, my own personal life is so difficult, but just like that collective like exhaustion of like, there's always something going on. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with it, and just like, oh my God, like sometimes it's like, okay, how long is the world really gonna last? Just like this, the kind of like hopelessness, like what do we have to fucking look forward to, bro? So just regenerating like that feeling of excitement and like momentum in myself, and like low-key like positivity. I think that's kind of like what I want to focus on, because sometimes it's just like, oh my God, sometimes it's just, I'm exhausted, bro, from like like all the things that we have to do in life, and like, yeah. So I've been like trying to, you know, listen to some Abraham Hicks every day, and like I think I'm gonna start reading that book again before bed, just to get those ideas in my subconscious, meditating, just like doing things that make me feel good. And I think when you, at least I know for me, like if I look at it like that, and not like, oh my God, I'm delusional, oh my God, I'm never gonna feel anything bad ever again, and instead just like, okay, like where in my life could I be just like, because I just remember like, especially in 2016, but the thing is, I look back at that time and I just, now, you know, I see someone who was very young and naive and just didn't really have a lot of like real world experience, and was just so like trusting of other people, and like, I definitely look at it with different eyes now, but I do remember experiencing just this almost like magical feeling of like, wow, things are just working out for me. Like, oh my God, everyone I meet seems to be just like aligned in my life. And I'm like, okay, how much of that was real? But just like that feeling. And I kind of want to get back to that just to kind of see what happens, you know? So anyway, let me know if you relate at all. Were you like really into the law of attraction and manifestation and stuff back then? I just always think of 2016 and the vegan movement and like that. But it's just also, it's kind of been like a running joke with me and a couple of my friends of like, damn, like we need to start being careful with what we say, because like we'll talk about somebody or like say something and then it happens. We run into that person. We like someone, it's just like, it's weird. And as like practical as I feel like I can be, let me know if you relate, or if you're a little more like dreamy vibes, if you're more like vibes or like not. I do like, sometimes it's just like, you know, I think I'm gonna get back to believing in the universe, because I feel like when I was doing that, a lot of things like low-key did work out. Or like, yeah, I feel like I mean, there's the it's like, what do I want to say? I feel like there's the magical vibes that I low-key sometimes like believe in. Like, I'm like, wait. And then there's just like the practicality. Like when I wanted to move apartments from my last apartment, even like when I just wanted to move like from where I used to live, like I just remember writing what my apartment would look like, how it would feel, and like, I just became so focused on like doing everything I could to achieve that. And not in like a, oh my God, I need this because like I'm lacking it way, but just like in this excited, like positive, like attitude kind of way. I mean, if you know, you know. But I mean, let me know if you guys want me to like talk more about this subject on the regular or not. But it's just something I kind of want to get back to because I low-key feel like, I mean, listen to this whole podcast. I'm talking about being like stressed out, having anxiety. I'm like, I just want to feel good. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. Yeah. Let me know if you have any thoughts on anything we discussed. So homework of the week, until next time, take time for rest and let me know what you do, what helps you rest. If you're someone who experiences anxiety, maybe write out like, if you be mindful, I guess, of like when you experience anxiety, like, what could be triggering this, and maybe write about it in a journal or something. And watch an Abraham Hicks video. Why not? Not that you like have to do any of those things, but that's what I'm going to do. So thank you guys so much for listening, watching, etc. I look forward to seeing who is going to repost this, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye, everyone.